We are not telling people that they can't enjoy life. We are not telling people to not go to that ball game. Don't go on that boat ride. Don't go swimming. Don't go to that picnic. We're just saying, just think about what you're putting on the skin to protect it while you're out.
Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of The Skin Reel. This week, I'm talking about one of my favorite ways to sun protect, and that is with UPF clothing. Now, hopefully you've heard about UPF clothing nowadays. It seems like it's definitely getting more popular and more common. It's certainly popular with children, but there seems to be this kind of lack of cute, stylish clothing for people my age, women who still want to look cute and fashionable when they're outside. They don't want to look frumpy and dated, and they still want to show off their curves. And so I am so glad to have Dr. Virginia Reeder on with me. She is a board-certified dermatologist and native of Mobile, Alabama, and she started a clothing company called Lolima. She saw that there was a lack of cute and stylish clothing for women and mothers out there. And she was noticing all the moms were coming in sunburned in her clinic. And so she knew something had to be done. So I am so thrilled that she is coming on to share her knowledge about UPF clothing with us today, and also share with us what UPF is, what it means, and how to know if what you are wearing is really keeping your skin safe in the sun. As we approach summer, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this episode. Dr. Reeder, thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to have you on because it has always been a dream of mine actually to have a UPF sun protective clothing company, and mine never took off. And so I am so excited to hear about Lolima and everything that you're doing. So thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. What a fun little Saturday morning activity. I'm really excited about joining you.
Yeah, I introduced you earlier, but I'd love to hear in your own words, like who you are, what you do, and why you started your clothing company.
So like yourself, I'm a board certified dermatologist. I practice general dermatology, also cosmetic dermatology and surgical dermatology. So basically my job all day long is to talk to people about how to make their skin better. So one of the most common questions that I get is, how can we stay looking young forever? So people do not want those wrinkles. They do not want the sunspots that come along with aging. So, I mean, that is just really the thing, is how can we keep looking young forever? And so like you, I'm sure I'm always recommending to protect our skin from the sun. So the sun causes really at least 90% of the aging that we see. And so there are just tons of ways that we can protect our skin from the sun and try to keep those wrinkles at bay. So of course, for many years, we've been recommending sunscreen. And I do think that sunscreen has really helped many people to look and feel better in their skin. But there's really just so much more that we can do. If you think about it, you know, we have our whole body to take care of. Sometimes it's just too much when you're outdoors to think about all that reapplication. I mean, when you think about the recommendations of how often it's supposed to be put on and how much, your average American is just simply not cutting it with their application. I mean, I think it's like a shot glass we're supposed to put on all over our bodies. And I did that one time for just an educational video, and I was, you know, just covered in sunscreen, and it took forever for that much sunscreen to absorb. So I just really think in our, you know, kind of day-to-day use of sunscreen that we're just not cutting it. Plus, when we think about sunscreen, what do we talk about? We talk about SPF. So SPF is our sun protective factor, but it is based entirely on the protection of UVB. So UVB is the part of sunlight that turns fair people like you and me red when we go out into the sun. And that's actually how they give SPF its rating. They take fair-skinned people into the lab and they irradiate the skin and they see how long it takes for that skin to turn red. And then they put the sunscreen on a different part of the skin, and then they see how much longer it's able to withstand the radiation before it turns red. And that's how we get the SPF factor. But we know that so much of sunlight is not just UVB, it's UVA. I think like 90 or 95% of the sunlight on the earth, like around the middle of the day, is UVA. So, I mean, UVA it's incredibly aging. It also causes cancer. we're just getting a lot of UVA sun when we're outdoors.
Yeah. And plus, right, UVA is the long wavelength of radiation from the sun, and that goes through windows. And if you're driving all day, you may think, oh, well, I'm not outside, right? But you are still getting that exposure to the UVA wavelength.
Right. It comes right through the window. We don't get any protection. So that's another thing is people think that they're not getting sun when they're in cars or next to windows. And you can see how many windows I have right here in my house. But we get so much sun through this aging our skin and promoting carcinogenesis or skin cancer that comes right through the window. So that's a whole flaw with our sunscreens that we have. The SPF rating system really only has to do with how well the lotion or potion or whatever it is we're putting on our skin, with how well that protects against UVB. So, in more recent years, we've been encouraging people to look for sunscreens that say broad spectrum. So we have some filters that protect into the UV wavelength, but the rating system doesn't apply to that. So we're not getting like an equivalent of SPF of 30 or 50 or whatever our number is against UVA. We're getting some amount of UVA protection, but it might not be as much as we want or need to, again, look younger forever.
That's the whole goal. We hear this all day, every day. People are like, how do I keep my skin looking young? How do I prevent wrinkles? And unfortunately, I do a lot of skin cancer surgery. And so I'm seeing people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even 100s, they unanimously tell me, I wish I had known. I wish I had known. Or they'll say, we didn't have sunscreen back in my day, and we didn't know that we needed to either wear it or sun protect. But nowadays, we do know. And I love that you mentioned, I try to say sun protection rather than just sunscreen, because I think sun protection is sort of like the umbrella term, right? And then sunscreen is just one component of protecting your skin from the sun. And as you've wonderfully mentioned earlier, some of the flaws with just relying on sunscreen, it's really not enough, right? And even the most diligent dermatologist doesn't always reapply every 2 hours and isn't always wearing as much sunscreen as recommended. So you bring up a really great point with that.
Yeah, so that's exactly how I started kind of along this path. I would find myself looking for things that would cover up more of my body because I have 3 kids and I live on the Gulf Coast. We love to go out on the boat. We love, going to the pool, playing sports outdoors. I've got a son that plays travel baseball. I mean, all the things. We live in a beautiful world. I really think that we should all enjoy it. It's great for our mental health. We need to get outside. We have to have those activities that we love. But how can we also protect our skin while we're doing it? So I would find myself, essentially searching to the end of the internet and back to try to find something that I felt cute in, that I didn't feel like was frumpy or made me look like I was going to fish in an offshore rodeo or something like that.
You don't like that look, Dr. Reeder?
It doesn't make me feel my best self. So, I've relied heavily on hats over the years. And I can remember when around the time my first daughter was born was kind of when I got into dermatology, and I found this one rash guard, and it was like a pretty green and pink, fun floral print. And I basically wore that one forever. But then it was like, go to try find something else. And it was just really hard. And so I've seen over the last 10 years or so, a huge increase in the number of things that I think are just adorable and, very fashion conscious for kids. So I can make my kids look pretty cute when they're, at the pool. But I really struggled to find something for myself. And then as I'm seeing, my patients are coming in for skin checks, especially in the spring and summer. And I'm just going to tell you that the moms are always the ones that get sunburned. The moms are taking care of everything at the pool. They're trying to slather those kids down. And I mean, it's just patient after patient all day long. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, and I would recommend, the long sleeve clothing or the hats. And, the hats have picked up, but there's just not enough options out there for women. So that's how I, decided, like, women, we need this. We need better choices. We need more options.
For sure. I feel like the stuff for the kids is adorable. I mean, I'm always like, oh my gosh, does my daughter's like size 10 come in a bigger size? Because it's so cute. And then also on the other spectrum, I feel like there are some well-known companies that provide good sun protective clothing for maybe a more mature age group or more seniors. But there's this missing demographic for like the young to middle age. I'm not young, but like middle-aged moms who still want to look attractive. They are in shape. They want to look good and feel good at the beach and not feel like they are covered up in a blanket. So yeah, I felt that same sentiment, which is why I briefly thought about like, hey, we need to do something. There's definitely a market for this where you can cover up and still look stylish and cute and attractive.
So that's kind of where I was coming from when I made this clothing line. My line is named for my 3 children whose middle names are Louise, Lyndon, and Margaret. It's an exercise in optimism. Can we, decide that we want to be better and actually, take those steps to protecting our skin? Because really, we're all getting older day by day, and the only way to continue to keep everything looking like it is now is to protect it.
I'm a total skin minimalist. I've only done like radio frequency microneedling once. I have access to all these devices and stuff, but I feel like I haven't needed it yet because I am vigilant with sun protection. So for anyone listening who thinks, oh, it's so expensive to have good skin, you got to do all these procedures and all these things. If you just sun protect, you will have amazing skin. I know you've probably seen this, right? And I know I've seen all my patients where if I'm looking at their arms versus their stomach, the stark difference between skin that in general is sun protected in patients who are in their 70s or 80s versus their arms or their face, there's such a difference. And I wish people could see that before it happens, that sun protection alone is going to get you so far, especially if you're someone who is like, I don't want to do a lot of cosmetic procedures. I don't want to spend that kind of money. Then sun protect, wear a rash guard, and you can really stave off having to do so much of these procedures you hear about and spend a lot of money. It really can be that simple, but it's not always easy.
So I 100% agree with you. And I think another point of emphasis, there's still so much confusion about this, but it's all skin types. So people will think, I have a little bit darker skin, I tan, I don't burn. There's still this huge misconception about the protection of melanin and not aging of the skin. Like darker skin types still get spots, they still age, they still get wrinkles, we still need to protect it. Unfortunately, they still get skin cancers too. So it's all of us. The need is universal.
We've talked about sun protection and sunscreen, and I think people know hats. I'm a huge hat fan because I don't love to always reapply sunscreen on my face if I have makeup on. And I hear this question a lot too, like how do you reapply sunscreen on your face if you're wearing makeup? So I think a hat's a great option. But let's talk about just like clothing. Like, how do you know, right? 'Cause I'm wearing this like light sweater if people are watching. Like, is this going to protect me from the sun? Or what should you be looking for? Like, does all clothing protect from the sun? Or do you need to look for something specific to keep your skin safe in the sun?
So I would say any clothing is better than no clothing. But there is a specific rating system, which is called UPF, which stands for ultraviolet protection factor. So as opposed to SPF, which is the lotions and potions and creams, UPF is the rating system for clothing. So the UPF rating system, you'll see things marked as 30 or 50 or even 50 plus. So that has to do with how much just light is coming through the clothing. So when it is rated as UPF 30, that means it's letting through 1/30th of the light through the fabric. When it's rated as UPF 50, it's letting through 1/50th of the light, which is like 2%. And then you'll see pretty frequently like that's what Lolima is marked as 50 plus. That's the highest category that you're allowed to market. But that means that less than 2% or less than 1/50th is coming through. And for example, when we did the Lolima fabric, which is actually what I'm wearing right now, when we did the Lolima fabric testing, so there's companies that will actually test the fabric for you. The Lolima fabric let 1/2000th of the light through. But the highest rating system the highest you can market is 50 plus.
That's amazing. And that's why I love UPF clothing. But is it because of the fabric that's used, or is there some chemical put into the garment? Like, what gives you that high level of sun protection?
So it can actually be done both ways. So the Lolima fabric has to do with the weave of the fabric. So the weave is letting the less light through, but there are also some fabrics. I think Peter Millar, the men's clothing line, may have had one for men, but it has something that's put onto the fabric. So the more times you wash those, you're going to lose some of that protection. So eventually, after a certain number of washes, it's going to get down to, if it's a white polo, it's going to get down to the protection of just like a white t-shirt, which I think I've read is supposed to be about UPF 5, which would mean it's letting 20% of the light through.
Does it matter, Dr. Reeder, like the color? So light versus dark, or as long as you have that UPF 50 plus rating, you can rest assured?
So as long as you have the UPF 50 rating, you can rest assured. In general, if it is a garment that has not been rated for UPF, in general, the darker fabrics are going to offer more protection than lighter fabrics. So like a black shirt is going to, in general, give you more protection than a white shirt.
And another question I have, so a lot of people buy from Amazon, right? And I've gotten a few things for like when I'm hiking or biking that are long sleeve that say UPF, and they're not necessarily from companies I know about, but is there a society or certification we should be looking for, or can just anyone say UPF? Like, how do I know how real that is?
The company that we used to do our UPF testing, I think, does have like a seal, but it's not something that I've considered putting on our garments. So honestly, I don't know if anyone's monitoring it.
I guess this is where it comes to purchasing from well-known, reputable companies where they really are doing the due diligence. And of course, on the internet, a lot of people can make claims and you just have to be careful. So I maybe need to be a little more thorough with my research too on the UPF clothing. But I have thought about that. Like, it's just because they say it, how true do I really know it is? So again, I guess just make sure you're getting it from a reputable company.
A lot in life comes back to you get what you pay for. If you're looking for something that you want to have the UPF rating, you probably ought to stick with the company that you feel is reputable.
Dr. Reeder, tell me if you get this question when you tell your patients to wear long sleeves and long pants in the heat of the summer where you are, because I get patients telling me, there is no way I'm putting on a long sleeve shirt or pants. And I have to tell them, like, actually, the fabric wicks away sweat. It actually dries very quickly. It's not like wearing a pair of denim pants or jeans or wool. So do you find that people are a little hesitant to cover up so much in the summer because they feel like they're going to be hot?
I do. And I find myself having the same conversation. So my personal experience is that it's more comfortable because, like you said, it wicks away sweat and moisture. And then also, if you are swimming and you're able to get wet, then the wet fabric cools you off more than if you are not wearing something on the skin. It's just this huge cultural misconception. And throwing back to a minute ago when you were talking about your skin cancer patients and you said you have patients that are 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 100s. Have you ever discussed with your patients that are over the age of 100 what they used to wear when they were younger?
I'm trying to think if I can think of anything. A lot of them, though, I mean, my grandmother just turned 101, and I can tell you she was not wearing sunscreen and probably spent a lot of time outdoors. But, she also does look 101, skin-wise at least, and she has had skin cancers over the years.
It's interesting because I have a few patients that are over 100, and, some of them have come to me for other reasons, not skin cancers, for rashes and things. And I've, asked them what did they used to wear, and they will say things like, oh, well, we always wore long sleeves and a hat. Like my mom and my grandmother wouldn't let me outside without long sleeves and a hat. And oh, she would always wear gloves because, she knew that the sun would give her spots and make her look old. And so maybe because I was a history major, I've always kind of enjoyed history, but I just thought that was so interesting. Like there was kind of this huge cultural shift where we used to kind of understand as a society that we needed to wear these long sleeves when we were out. Do you watch Bridgerton? They talk about it a little bit in Bridgerton, that show on Netflix. It's a popular thing on Netflix right now. But anyway, it's just so interesting. So we had like that kind of respect for the sun, and we did think about it. And then there was this kind of huge cultural shift to like, we all wanted to be Farrah Fawcett and tan and, wear like less on the beach. And it's like we're still kind of stuck in that mindset, but we could educate ourselves and make it fashionable to, again, wear things that covered our skin outdoors. It's really just, kind of personal choice and choices that we make as a society. But I just have thought that was interesting, and I didn't know if you had similar experiences.
My patient population is probably a little skewed because they typically are coming to me with a skin cancer, but I will always find it really interesting when someone is in their 80s and it's their first skin cancer. And I'll ask them like, oh, did you not spend a lot of time outdoors. Or, I mean, that's pretty impressive for someone to get their very first one in their 80s, especially if they have a light skin type. And a lot of the times they will tell me like, oh, I burned all the time. Oh, it was so uncomfortable to be in the sun. So they sort of knew my skin can't really handle being burned. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. And so they would be purposeful about not going out or covering up. I don't want people to listen and think we dermatologists are trying to stay indoors all the time and never go outside, right? Like it's wonderful to be outside. You just want to be smart about it because you don't want to be getting skin cancers all the time or having to pay thousands of dollars, right, for procedures to make your skin look better and kind of undo that damage. So I love that wearing UPF clothing is a great way to have your cake and eat it too, right? You can be outdoors, you can enjoy the summer and the pool and the beach, and you can just do it in a smart way where you're protecting your skin.
Yes, 100%. I know you've heard the jokes or seen the memes about dermatologists being vampires. That's not what we're promoting. We're just saying that you should put a little thought into what you wear when you're outside. I mean, I think the Academy of Dermatology did, some survey, and they found that like 20% of people think about putting on sunscreen when it's cloudy, or if they're going to a barbecue and it's not the pool, even less thought about putting on sunscreen or protecting their skin. It's really just a mindset. So I've been on social media saying tanning is the new tobacco, and I really feel like that is the thing. So I think we can all agree at this point that tobacco is not good for us. It causes cancer. It makes us look so old. It really ages the skin. So now here we are just trying to kind of expand that idea. The hard part is that with tobacco, you have to make a choice to do it. So you have to pick it up and consume it somehow. Where with the sun, it's kind of the opposite. You have to think about it and take an action to not do it.
I feel like people are being really careful with their children. So I see kids all the time at the pool covered up or wearing rash guards, babies in strollers, they always have the awning on. And so wearing hats. So I feel like we're being really, really good with our kids. But to your point, you said the moms are the worst, right?
Always the ones that get sunburned. And they'll say, I put on sunscreen, but I think I forgot to reapply, or I didn't reapply enough. And that is just the hard part with sunscreen. You're putting a film over the skin, but it washes off. You have to reapply it and you have to put on enough.
And I have to say, I do not like putting a lot of stuff on my skin. So I don't love slathering myself on with sunscreen and then it gets on my car, it gets on stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't love reapplying either. That's kind of the last thing I want to do when I'm sandy and hot and sticky at the beach is to then go rub more stuff on my skin. So I get it. And that's why, again, I'm such a fan of UPF Clothing. I would love, as the creator of a UPF Clothing company, what are some of your top picks for the summer for people to wear?
My favorite must-have pieces in my wardrobe are definitely a long sleeve. So that's why I created a long sleeve that zips in the front.
Is this for swim or just what?
Just for anything. I really if I'm, for example, going to go to my kid's baseball game. Even before I had low Lima, I was always trying to make sure that I had something that would cover, basically kind of down to my wrist. Because while I am very conscious about putting on the summer, I don't love that reapplication process when you're, hot and sweaty. So I would always try to wear something that was a very lightweight material. I would usually try to either make sure it was UPF or at least a dark color. And I put on, a broad brimmed hat. I've found several brands that make things that I think they're very cute. Broad brimmed hat, I wear my sunglasses. I love the powder sunscreens. There are really quite a few brands that make powder sunscreens that have zinc in them that you can easily reapply over your makeup, or even when you're, kind of sweaty, it's okay to reapply that. Doesn't feel sticky. And then the other thing I always make sure I do is have a lip gloss. So I know you've seen terrible skin cancers on the lip. They're high risk. It's emotionally distressing. They can be disfiguring. So I always try to put on the one I like the most right now is the Color Science lip gloss. So I'm always trying to put those on. I try to think about that in my car too. So I usually always have that in my purse. So big sunglasses, hat, something that was covering my arms. The legs are harder at the ballpark. If I'm at the pool, this company Mott 50 used to make really cute swim pants, and I have a few pairs of those that I would always wear. And I'm telling you, it just makes life so much easier. Like I can just splash around with my kids. I really didn't feel like I could wear the swim pants at the ballpark, so I'm, kind of stuck with the sunscreen on the legs. But there's just a lot that you can do if you just take a minute to think about it. I'm sure people have things in their own wardrobe too. I think it's our mindset. We have to kind of change this idea that we only wear like essentially underwear, like bikini and swim bottom, like a underwear to the pool. Like it doesn't really make any sense. I think, wear something cute and revealing when you go for cocktails or something. But why do we do that at the pool where we're exposing our skin to this carcinogen? It doesn't really make any sense to me. But those are kind of like the thought processes that I've always had when I'm, getting ready to go somewhere outdoors. I know that even if it's cloudy, even if it's the middle of the winter time, even if I'm going to just be inside next to windows, that light that causes cancer and then ages me is still there. I've had so many instances where I've set sunscreen with my kids to school and then like put it on before recess, and they're, in the first grade or kindergarten or whatever. And they come home and they're like, my teacher told me I didn't need sunscreen because it's cold outside. We just have to broaden everyone's horizons. I mean, if you can see, you probably need some protection from the sun. So it just needs to be something that we kind of build into our understanding. And I think, that's part of our role as dermatologists. Like, if not us, then who? We see the end game of it. And it's hard to, always be on the soapbox about the sun. But again, like you said, we are not telling people that they can't enjoy life. We are not telling people to not go to that ball game. Don't go on that boat ride. Don't go swimming. Don't go to that picnic. We're just saying, just think about what you're putting on the skin to protect it while you're out. So that's kind of my summertime spiel. The other thing that I usually always try to do, and I don't know how you feel about this, is I typically always take a supplement that has polypodium leukotomos. So that's an oral antioxidant that can also help to keep some of that DNA damage from the sun's rays from occurring. So that's another thing that, especially, I try to do it every day. I'm not perfect at taking it every day, but for sure, if I'm going to be, outdoors, either pool, boat, or ballpark, I'll definitely try to make sure that I've remembered to take that.
Those are great tips. Yeah. And also just try to find like a shady spot. So if I'm out at the playground, I will go, instead of standing right in the sun roasting, I will just go and sit in the shade and talk or watch or hang out. And one of my favorite, and I'll have to check out if Lolima has this, is I love a little shawl that has UPF that I can throw over, because if I've got a cute dress on or a cute outfit or a cute shirt, I don't necessarily want to wear a full like zip up t-shirt, like mock turtleneck on me. So what I'll do is I will just like throw that over my shoulders and make sure my arms are covered down to my wrist. And then it can even cover my chest a little bit. And I love that because it's easy to throw on. It's easy to take off. As soon as I go inside, I can take it off. Or if I'm in the shade, I can take it off. And I feel like it doesn't mess up your outfit. But what I've learned as someone who does cosmetics as well is that it's so much harder to treat sun damage off the face. I mean, it's hard to treat on the face, but it's so much harder to treat that sun damage on the neck, on the chest, on the arms. It's much, much harder off the face. So I'm really kind of vigilant with that. And I love like just a lightweight shawl I can throw over my shoulders. And then I know I'm protected when I'm outdoors, wherever I am. So I'm a big fan of that. I love hats. I love the rash guards that have a zipper. So this is just a pro tip. I have a few that don't have a zipper, and they are really tricky to take off when you're wet.
I love everything that you're saying. I have just kind of this that you could throw on your shoulders as a cardigan, but I'm always so interested in what people want. And I think a shawl would be another like great next addition to the Lolima line.
Please get a shawl. I have one from Coolie Bar. It's white. It goes with everything. And I use it all the time. And it's so lightweight, but I would love that. For me, that's my favorite. It's a must have in the summer. I don't know how people feel about this, but I recently did just buy gloves to wear when I'm driving, because I have noticed that I am really good with sun protection on my face, my chest even, but the top of my hands get way more sun than I realize. And what I recognize is that even when I put sunscreen on my hands, think about how many times we wash our hands, right? we are constantly washing our hands. And so there is just no way that sunscreen sticks. And again, like I hate like putting on a ton of sunscreen and then it gets all over your car, your steering wheel and all that stuff. And so I have actually just recently bought some gloves that I can wear when I'm driving. And you know what? I don't care if my family or friends make fun of me because I can see my hands do look older than my face. And I want to make sure that I'm protecting them.
So I think that's a great idea. I have always, since I've been practicing here, which again is about 8 years, I've always tried to throw on a lightweight jacket over my scrubs when I'm going to and from work, just because I know like I'm getting the sun and it's the morning time and the evening time, but still, I mean, over time, we will notice these changes. But so now I have taken to throwing just my Lolima top that zips in the front. So it's like a cardigan over, and you can see here, it has like a little, thumb protection. So like you can have essentially most of your hand covered. Like, this is the part that gets all the sun damage. So this is kind of built into my Lolima line here, but it's just, like you said, it's very difficult. I mean, we do, laser treatments here and all kinds of bleaching creams and retinoids, and it's very difficult to get this skin back to where people want it to be after the spots and the signs of aging start to appear.
And I know people have said this about celebrities too, right? Their faces will look amazing, but then it's like the neck, the chest, the hands, that's like the telltale giveaway, right, of sun damage. So those are areas that we forget about. They're hard to keep sunscreen on. And so, yeah, I find that wearing gloves, wearing the shirt that extends over your thumb and over the top of your hands is really, really helpful. So I love that. And you know what? I was just thinking your zip-up shirt is really cute. I mean, that's a great option for people who are runners, who are running outdoors, right? I know like a lot of women, like we're not going to run in the dark, right? There are plenty of reasons why that's scary. And if you're going to be running when the sun is up, you got to make sure you're sweating and you're going to have crazy tan lines depending on what you're wearing. So yeah, I think like throwing on like that cute little cardigan that you have is a great option too.
Yes. And I don't have it on right now, but the cardigan, actually all of the tops have detachable collars. And the reason that I did that was not just to, make it look fashionable. It's to protect the neck. So I've got this like stand-up ruffle collar, because I would find, here I am like doing my very best and we're out on a boat and you can't wear the hat that's broad brimmed while the boat is going. So I have like a ball cap on and I'm doing my best, I'm covering, but then I would find like I would sometimes get sun on my neck. And so I'm thinking like, what can we do? So, came up with this, cute ruffly collar, because that's kind of been all the rage in recent years. So just another thing, just like covering up another thing, but like, let's make it fun. And you don't have to wear it all the time. It can come off and you can use it to make a fashion statement, but then you're also physically covering that skin that, like you said, is more difficult to treat. And I mean, I'm sure you hear it. I'm hearing it all day long. Okay, people are coming in for their Botox, their fillers up here. But what about my neck? But what about, we're doing more and more with injectables and procedures on the neck. But, when the damage is there, it's tough to correct.
Prevention is number 1, 2, and 3, right? It's so much more effective than trying to react, to be very reactionary and undo and change and reverse. Prevention is so, so, so key. And then I say, no matter how old you are, right? You're never too old to start. So don't get discouraged if you're listening and you're 40, you feel like it's too late, or even you're 60 or 70, right? And, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the next best time is now. So
today, like seize the day. So yes, I fully agree with everything you said. I actually listened when you invited me to be on this and listened to your pro-aging podcast. And I feel like we're very much on the same kind of wavelength with what we recommend to our patients. And, there's unfortunately just no like toner that's going to make, this sun damage go away. People want like magic from their skincare products. And there's this whole kind of buzzy thing right now. So that's why I made the tagline of Lolima, skincare for everywhere. Because if you really want to take care of your skin, this truly is what you need to do.
Exactly. It's maybe not as sexy and maybe the, being able to have a cream that says it's going to cure all this and fix it, but that's just not reality. That's not what's going to happen. So if you can prevent and maximize sun protection, then you're going to be way ahead of the game. And I love how your point about like, why do we think we can only wear basically underwear outdoors, at the beach, at the pool? You can wear your sexy bikini, but when you're actually out swimming or on a boat or something in the direct sun, then then cover up. And then when you go under the canopy for cocktails in the evening, that's when you can bring out the sexy clothes if you want.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a thought that I had that it like just doesn't make a lot of sense.
As a middle-aged woman, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of good with covering up a little more.
Who doesn't look better in a little bit more fabric?
That's right. Yes. Well, Dr. Reeder, this has been a lot of fun. I cannot wait to check out Lolima for some cute summer clothing for myself. Is the company just for women, or do you have children's or men's as well?
Right now, it's just for women. I have lots of ideas for children and some ideas for men too, but you just have to kind of pick something and just get started with it. So we're rolling right now just with women, but I'm taking notes. If anybody has any suggestions, like I love your idea about the shawl. My mind's already kind of like spinning about what, different things we could do with that. I've got a lot of ideas for tweens because I have one of those. And, that's just, it's hard right now. We're kind of in a compromised situation. Like what can she wear that, she feels like she's blending in with her peers, but also protecting, that skin from the sun. So anyway, there's a lot of room out there for this kind of product. And I would love to hear from anyone that has any ideas.
That could be a whole episode, right, on tweens and sun protection. I've got one too. And she really wanted to show her stomach. And so she found a more athletic bathing suit. I think it's from LL Bean that shows about an inch of stomach. And then when she has a little rash guard that she wears over it. So our deal is when, we're at the beach all day or the pool all day, she has the rash guard on top. And then when she goes inside or she goes where the sun's down or it's not as intense, she can take it off and show her little crop top.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a similar thing. We compromised on kind of it's a cropped bikini, but it comes all the way up around the neck, a little bit shorter sleeve. So she gets to show off her stomach like all her friends. And then we do have the rash guards that we can put on top. It's all about compromise.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Reeder, can you send us off with just your top 3 tips for staying safe in the summer?
Yes, of course. Okay. So number 1 would be to physically cover, like wear clothing over as much of your body as you're able to. That includes hats, sunglasses, and sun protective clothing. Look for that UPF on this UPF rating on your sun protective clothing. Number 2 is going to be to seek the shade. So we talked about earlier that you like to go stand in the shade. So I would say either find that shady area or make your own with an umbrella. And then number 3 is definitely wear your sunscreen. So we were kind of discussing earlier some of the drawbacks of sunscreen, but fully support putting sunscreen over anything that's exposed and make sure that it says broad spectrum, so you're getting that UVA and UVB, and make sure you reapply it.
Sunscreen is still not optional, but covering up, the shade, all that are just additional things, especially when you're swimming and sweating and all that other good stuff. Yes. Well, Dr. Reeder, this has been so much fun. I've learned so much. I can't wait to look at your adorable clothing line and pick some stuff out for myself. Where can readers find you and follow you and learn more about what you're up to?
So Lolima is on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Our website is www.shoplolima.com. And then I have an Instagram account that is Dr. Virginia Reeder.
Wonderful. I'll include all that in the show notes so everyone can easily click and find you. And we'll see everyone next week.